Change your thoughts, change your life. You are never just what the world calls you. Sometimes, the smallest shift in your thinking unlocks the greatest transformation. This is the story of a man who changed everything. Not by luck, not by help, but by changing his mind. Near the edge of a bustling city, beside a railway station where life rushed endlessly and faces passed like shadows, there sat a man few noticed. A beggar. His days were spent moving between platforms, asking for spare coins from strangers who barely looked his way. His clothes were torn, his hands calloused, and his spirit quiet. He didn't dream of riches. He only hoped for survival. One ordinary morning, as trains screeched and whistles echoed, he noticed a man unlike the others. Well-dressed.com, with a presence that whispered wealth. The beggar's heart stirred with hope. Surely this man will give me something, he thought. He walked up to the gentleman, bowed slightly, and said, "Sir, would you kindly spare something?" The man looked at him, not with disgust, not with pity, but with a question. "Do you always ask," he said, "but never give?" The beggar blinked in confusion. "Sir, I'm just a beggar. I have nothing to offer." The man replied, "If you have nothing to give, why should anyone give you anything? I'm a businessman. I believe in exchange. If you offer something, anything, I'll offer something in return. Otherwise, I cannot help you." And with that, he stepped onto the train and vanished into the crowd. The beggar stood still. His hands were still empty, but now, so was his heart. He had heard 1,000 rejections, 1,000 insults, but this wasn't either. This was truth. He walked away from the platform, not to beg, but to think. For 2 full days, he sat quietly beside the station. He didn't stretch his hand. He didn't speak. He just asked himself, what do I have to give? At first, the answer was nothing. But then, something caught his eye. A small patch of wildflowers blooming near the tracks. Bright, delicate, unnoticed by all. And a thought bloomed in him too. What if I offered these, instead of asking with empty hands? The next day, he gathered a few flowers. As people passed, he offered them with a smile and soft words. To brighten your day, he'd say, and when someone dropped a coin in his bowl, he'd hand them a flower in return. People smiled, they paused, some even thanked him. Over time, his bowl began to fill, not because of pity, but because of joy. It wasn't just begging anymore. It was a gesture, a connection, a transaction of heart. But he noticed something else too. Whenever the flowers ran out, so did the generosity. It wasn't him people were rewarding. It was the experience he offered, however simple. And then, one afternoon, as he walked through a train compartment offering his blooms, he saw that same businessman once again. Excited, the beggar approached him and said, "Sir, today, I have something to give before asking for anything. Please accept this flower." The man smiled, accepted it, and gave him money. "You've become a businessman," he said, and those words, they pierced deeper than coins ever could. That night a beggar didn't sit at the station. He stood by the sky, looking up, and he whispered, "I am not a beggar, I'm a businessman." Passers-by thought he was mad, but inside him, a revolution had begun. He never returned to the station again. 6 months later, 2 well-dressed men met by coincidence at that same railway station. One of them extended his hand, smiling. "Do you recognize me?" he asked. The other hesitated, then shook his head. "I'm sorry, I don't think we've met." "Oh, but we have." The first man chuckled. "Twice, in fact. Once, when you refused to give to a beggar without exchange, and once more, when you bought flowers from that same man." The businessman's eyes widened in recognition. "You were that beggar?" The man nodded. "Yes, but not anymore. Today, I run a flower business. I travel between cities. I deliver joy now, not just petals." He smiled and continued, "You once told me, you must give to receive. That day, I understood the law of life. People weren't giving me charity. They were paying for what I gave them. A smile, a gesture, a piece of beauty. I was never poor. I just didn't know my value." They shook hands, no longer as giver and beggar, but as equals. Businessmen molded by mindset. Moral of the story: success doesn't begin in the pocket. It begins in the mind. The beggar didn't change his life with money. He changed it with a single thought. I have something to offer. When you believe you're empty, the world treats you as empty. But when you believe you hold value, because life is not about what you lack, it's about what you offer. So if you feel stuck, powerless, or small, look again, look within. You may be sitting beside your own field of wildflowers, unnoticed, unexplored, waiting for you to pick them. Change your thoughts, and your life will follow. If this story moves something in you, subscribe to our channel for more. Because sometimes, all it takes is one story to remind you, you were never meant to just survive. You were born to bloom.